Hi, my name is Brianna Bouget, and I'm the school psychologist here at Genesee Valley. And today I'd like to talk to you about psychoeducational evaluations in the CSE process. So what is a psychoeducational evaluation? Well, a psychoeducational evaluation is something that we use in a school to look at the full picture of a child. So the way that they think, what they look like in the classroom, how others see them, their cognitive, academic, behavioral abilities, and we kind of put together a whole picture of a child. So how does the process work for me as a school psychologist? Well, the first thing that we do in this process is we obtain parent consent, which is the most important step. It's when an evaluation is coming up, we send home paperwork for the parents to fill out to provide consent for the testing and the evaluation of their child. So what do I do? Well, the first thing that I do is I review a student's records. So I look at their grades, I look at previous testing if it's ever been completed before. If they're a child who has already been classified as a student with a disability and receives special education services, they undergo what's called a reevaluation every 3 years to see sort of how they're doing. So if they've been tested before or if they've had a previous evaluation, I review that data. Another important piece is obtaining stakeholder input. So I talk with teachers, I talk with staff that might be in a classroom with your child, and then of course I talk to you, the parents, just to get information about how a student is doing. The next piece is an observation. So I'll go into the classroom and I'll observe the student in an educational setting. Sort of see what they look like in the classroom compared to their other peers, see their attention, if they seem to understand what's going on with the material. That's where I really see what a student looks like in the classroom setting. And then, of course, there's the assessment piece. So this is where I look at the way that a child thinks. I look at their academic skills, behavior, adaptive skills. The psychoeducational evaluation is broken up into different areas depending on the student's needs. I take all this information, I try to get a snapshot, a good picture of a child, and I put it into a report, which I will discuss in this next slide. And then, of course, I will go over that report at a Committee on Special Education meeting. So here is where I'd like to talk specifically about the reports that I write that take all that information together. If you look here on the left, these are scores in psychoeducational reports. Most students fall in the center of this, what's called a bell curve. So on the left side and the right side, you see that the areas are smaller, the middle is larger. So a few students might fall on the far left, a few students might fall on the far right, but most kiddos, when we look at their abilities, will fall right in that middle, and that within the average range. One of the scores that I use to describe a student's performance based on the tests that I give are called standard scores. If you see on the first part here, it goes from 90 to 100, about 110. So if you look here, from 90 to about 110, for most tests that I give, that's where you would see what we would consider a student who falls in the average range, right where we would expect. If you look at the higher end here, in the significantly above average range and the significantly below average range, these are areas that it's more rare for a student to fall within those areas. So if they score significantly above, we know it's a strength for them. If they score significantly below, we know that that might be an area that they have difficulty with. These standard scores also coincide with what are called percentile ranks. So if you see here, a student who is in that average range would be from about the 25th to the 75th percentile. So we would expect a kid to fall somewhere between 25% and 75%. Again, it's much more rare to see higher up in that 90 percentile or lower, below the 10th percentile. So when we see something that's in that lower range, we know, okay, that's an area of weakness for them. That's an area that they struggle with significantly compared to other kiddos their age. If we see something up in the higher end, we know, okay, this is a strength. They're performing higher than most kiddos their age, equal to or higher than them. On the right here, you see an example. This might be the type of table that you'd see in one of my reports. Listed are the different areas that were measured. So this specifically looks at the area of thinking of a kiddo. Verbal skills, visual skills, problem solving, memory, processing speed. So when you look at a student like this, their processing speed is in that average range. So they would fall in this range here that we would expect. So they're processing equal to their same age peers, other kiddos their age. But then if you look at an example like their verbal comprehension that falls in the very low range with a standard score of 76, you're looking somewhere about here, which is in that significantly below average range. So this is an area that this student really struggles with compared to their processing speed. So basically what I do is I look at these differences to sort of see, okay, how is this going to affect how a student learns? And that's part of the piece that goes into the report. Now I know that was a whole bunch of information about the psychoeducational evaluations and what goes in a report in a short period of time. So absolutely, please reach out to me if you have any questions, concerns, need any clarification. Listed below are my email and my phone number. Give me a call or email anytime. If you have any additional questions, and certainly reach out to me. And thank you so much for your time today and for listening about psychoeducational evaluations.